physics for the ninth standard. I'm going to start with the third lesson, that is laws of motion. Now, this entire lesson will be divided into three parts. The first part will be on contact and non-contact forces along with Newton's first law of motion. In the second video, I'll be explaining about Newton's second law of motion and linear momentum, and the third video will deal with Newton's third law of motion and gravitation. So this is the first part under which I'm going to explain about contact and non-contact forces and Newton's first law of motion. Right, right from 6th standard, you'll have been learning about force. Okay, the definition given there was that force is just a push or a pull. Now, here you all will learn more about force. That is, it is not just a push and a pull, but there are many more things involved in force. Okay, so first thing is about contact and non-contact forces. Now, what is force? How do you define force? Now, force is something which can change the state of motion of an object, or it can change the state of rest of an object, or it can also displace an object. It can change its shape, size of an object. Alright, so now there are in fact two parts here related to force. That is, if the object is in motion, force can bring the object to rest. If the object is at rest, force can produce motion in that object. And the second part will be wherein on application of force, its dimensions can change. It can change the shape and size of an object. So for the first thing, I'm going to give you an examples of the first type when it can set an object into motion. Like for example, there is a car which is stationary. The moment you start it, that means you're applying some force on the engine. So the moment it is at rest, you start the car. So that means some force is needed to make the car move. So from rest, force is applied, the car starts, so there is motion. Another example would be, there's a book on the table which is at rest, you push it, you set it into motion. Now second type will be, there is an object which is already in motion and you want to stop it. Again you need force for it. How? Like there is a cyclist pedaling, the cycle is already in motion. Now in order to stop the cycle, he has to apply brakes. So on application of brakes, that means some force has to be applied on the tires, so which will stop the bicycle. So that means force is needed. So here you will have seen two things: how to stop an object and how to start an object, how to set it into motion. Now another thing would be when shape and size can be changed. Now this will be applicable only if the object is non-rigid object. Like for example, dough, the moment you press it, you can give any shape to it. That means you are changing the dimensions of it. A sponge, when you press it, its dimension get changed. Then rubber, you can, by applying force, you can change its dimension. If you have a metal piece, after hitting it, you are changing its dimension, you can change it to a sheet of metal. So that means force can, it is only because of force that these dimensions are changing, right? So here, depending on how force is applied, depending on the point of application of force, you can term force as contact or non-contact force. Now first I'm going to explain about contact force. Now in contact force, first example would be force due to friction. Right? Force due to friction. Now contact forces are those forces when there should be a physical contact between the two objects. Now, whenever I'm pushing, there's a book on the table, I'm pushing that book. So, whenever I'm pushing the book, there'll be an opposite force that is acting on the book. Now, table, due to its roughness, will have some force present. So, that force is frictional force. So, that frictional force will act on the book and try to resist the motion of the book. So, that is called frictional. So, push will be in the forward direction, but frictional force will be in the opposite direction. Same is when a car is moving on a road, when brakes are being applied, car stops. Now it is stopping because of the friction between the tires and the brakes. Okay, so such a force is called frictional force. This is a contact force because there is contact between both the objects. Second type of force would be tension, force due to tension in the spring. Now you have an object which is tied with the help of a string and you just suspend it. The moment you suspend it, you find due to the weight of the object, there will be a downward force acting due to the weight, and in turn, because of the string, there is an upward force which will keep the object in place. Okay, so there is a downward force and there is an upward force. So when both these force balances, you find the object remains in its place. So this is another type of a force due to tension. Again, both the bodies are in contact. The string is tied to the object. So that is force due to tension in the string. So third type of force is normal reaction force. What is this normal reaction force? Now suppose on your palm you have something placed on your palm. So due to the weight of that object which is on your palm, there will be a downward force exerted on the palm which will try to slightly take your palm in the downward direction. But in order to balance its weight, the palm will exert a normal force which is in the upward direction. So when both these forces they equal and opposite, you find the object will remain in its place. Right? So that force which is equal, normal reaction force is in the upward direction, the weight of the object is in the downward direction. So that is called normal reaction force. Next, force due to compressed or stretched spring or stretched spring. Suppose you have a spring. You have a spring which is attached on one end, and it is in the normal position. The moment you stretch it, you find there will be a restoring force acting on the spring which will try to bring the spring to its normal position, right? Which is always opposite. So again, this is a type of a contact force. So that same spring, when you try to compress it, you find again there will be a normal. Now when you're compressing forces in this direction, the moment you release the force on the compressed spring, you find there will be a normal restoring force which is in the opposite direction, which will try to bring the spring to its original position. So both these forces are equal and opposite. Right? And same with springs attached on both the sides. When you in the normal position, there is no force acting, but when you are trying to stretch the spring, again a restoring force will try to bring both the springs in the normal position. They are opposite to each other, and again when you are compressing the spring, you find restoring force will be in this direction, trying to bring it to its normal position. Right? And another example would be using force due to collision. Force due to collision of two objects. Now there are two objects, object 1 and object 2. So this, when they both are moving in the opposite direction, you find they will move with some velocity. So after hitting, some momentum will be transferred. Of course there will be transfer of momentum. So due to the impact, the object which is on this side will move in the opposite direction, and the object which is on this side will be moving in this direction. So again there is transfer. This object will transfer its force here and this one over here, and they will move in the opposite direction. So again this is another type of contact force. So far we have learned about 5 different types of contact forces. Next is non-contact forces. Now, gravitational force, electrostatic force and magnetic force, these are the 3 types of non-contact forces present. So I am going to explain the first one, that is gravitational force, electrostatic force and magnetic force. Now, gravitational force is a type, all these 3 are in fact examples of non-contact forces, because there is no contact between the 2 objects. Like the moment I release this pen, due to the force of gravity, due to the earth's pull, you find this pen will come down. So initially there is no contact between both the forces. So this is an example of gravitational force, which is non-contact force. An apple on a tree will fall in the downward direction. Why is it so? Because of the pull of the earth. It is coming in the downward direction. Next is electrostatic force. Now you all have learned about charges, positive and negative charges. You all know that like charges repel each other and unlike charges attract each other. So if you have a comb, you rub it against your dry hair and try to attract paper bits. The moment you bring it close to paper bits, you find there is opposite charge as that of the comb being developed on the paper. So due to these opposite charges, you find initially they are not in contact. The moment you just bring it closer, you find the papers will get attracted to the comb. So that is due to electrostatic force. Alright, so again it is a type of a non-contact force. And the third example is magnetic force. Now we all know that like poles of a magnet repel each other, whereas unlike poles of a magnet attract each other. If you have north and north pole or south and south pole, they repel each other, whereas if you have north pole and south pole, they attract each other. So initially there is no contact between the magnets. So the moment you bring it within the vicinity of the magnetic force, you find they attract each other. So that is another example of non-contact forces. Okay, so these are examples of non-contact forces. Okay, now we come to Newton's first law of motion. Now, in the earlier lesson, that is chapter 2, you all have learned about motion, that is linear motion. Now, in there, you all know that when objects, they move on a straight path, you find that there is force which is needed to make the object move. So we are going to learn more about this in this part, that is Newton's first law of motion and inertia. Newton's first law of motion and inertia. Now, as you all know that when an object is in motion, it is because of the force that that object is in motion. If the object is at rest, we know that until and unless you don't apply force, that object will not move. Right? Now, if there's a cyclist pedaling, and the moment he stops pedaling, the cycle should stop, isn't it? Then, if there's a book on the table, it will remain stationary on the table. Until and unless you don't move it, it will not move. But in case of motion of a cycle, now Galileo was the one who observed that the moment you stop pedaling, the cycle will not stop. Instead, it will cover some distance before it stops. Okay. Now, what is the reason for that cycle to stop after covering some distance? It is because of the force of friction between the tires and the road. Now, if this friction is being reduced, drastically reduced completely, then you find that cycle will cover longer distance. Same with the ball. You just set a ball rolling. Due to friction between the ground, between the flow and the ball, you find that the ball will stop. But if you try to polish the surface in such a way that there is no friction, then the ball will cover longer distance, and eventually you find that friction between both the surfaces, when it is reduced to zero, you find the object should move continuously. So Galileo had observed certain things regarding motion and regarding rest. What were his observations? His observations were that an object which is in motion continues to remain in motion. An object which is at rest continues to remain at rest, provided there is no external force trying to stop the motion or set the object into motion. Now Newton, he tried to formulate both the observations in the form of a law which is called as Newton's first law of motion. Now what does it state? Now Newton's first law of motion states that when an object when an object is in motion, it continues to remain in motion, or when it is at rest, it continues to remain at rest until no external unbalanced force is acting on it. So this is Newton's first law of motion. Now, this statement of first law of motion can be explained using what is called as inertia. Using the definition of inertia and force. Definition of force. Now, first part, that is, if an object is at rest, it will continue to remain at rest. That can be explained using this term, that is inertia. Now, what is inertia? Inertia is the tendency of an object to remain in the state of rest. A book lying on the table will continuously remain there until and unless you don't displace it, it will remain at rest. Inertia is nothing but the tendency of an object to remain in its state of rest. Whereas the second part of Newton's first law of motion, which states that an object which is in motion continues to remain in motion, that is in fact due to the force that is applied, right? So now mass and inertia has got relation. There, in fact, inertia is the you can say that property because of the mass of an object. So an object which has more mass will have more inertia. An object which will have less mass will have less inertia. Okay. Now, for example, a tennis ball and a season ball, when you're comparing, tennis ball, because of its less mass, will have less inertia, and a season ball, because of its more mass, will have more inertia. So inertia has something to do with mass. It is the intrinsic property of mass. Right? Now I'll be explaining about, I'll give one or two examples of inertia of rest and inertia of motion. So Newton's first law can be explained on the basis of inertia of rest and inertia of motion. First is inertia of, an example would be when passengers in a sitting in a bus, the moment bus starts, you find a person tends to lean in the backward direction. Now what is the reason? So when a person is sitting in the bus and the bus suddenly starts, initially it is at rest, it is due to inertia of rest, the person in the bus is at rest. The moment the bus starts, the lower portion of the person is in contact with the seat and the ground. The moment bus starts, you find the lower portion starts moving, whereas the upper portion, upper body, in fact remains at rest. So due to that, the moment bus starts, you find a person tends to move backwards. So why is it so? It is because of inertia of rest. Another example would be wherein you have a coin which is placed over a cardboard and you have a glass placed on at the bottom. The moment you flick the cardboard, you find that the coin, it falls in the glass of containing water. The glass and the cardboard and the coin, they both do not move in the forward direction. Again, it is due to inertia of rest of the coin that the coin falls vertically into the glass, and only the cardboard moves in the forward direction. There are many more examples related to inertia of rest. And the second part is inertia of motion. Here I'll be giving you two examples related to inertia of motion. In a moving vehicle, many a times when a person jumps from a moving vehicle, in fact he just falls down. Now again, why is it so? Why does a person fall down the moment he jumps from a moving train or a moving vehicle? Now it is because of inertia of motion. You find initially along with the train, the person also is in motion. The moment he jumps, his feet comes into the contact with the ground and they come to rest, whereas the top portion is still in motion. So because of that, the person tends to fall in the forward direction. So the reason is due to inertia of motion. Right? Then another example would be where in a bus, when the bus is moving along with some passengers, and when brakes are being applied, you find again the person leans in the forward direction. Now why is it so? Because as the bus is moving, the person along with the bus is moving. The moment brakes are applied, the lower portion, that is the feet, will be on the ground, on the in contact with the ground on the bus. The moment brakes are applied, lower portion remains, lower portion comes to rest, whereas the top portion which is there, it tries to go along with the motion of the bus. So due to that, that person leans in the forward direction. That is another example of inertia of motion. So you can give many examples related to inertia of motion. Right? Now this was about Newton's first law of motion. Now in the second video, I'll be explaining about Newton's second law of motion and linear momentum.